This is where the fun begins.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And It's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, yeah, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the expanded universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The expanded universe respects the reader. In the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy, just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi, or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the expanded universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the expanded universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
Are you sure? So be it.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my channel, OG Star Wars, and another CAF chat. Yeah, I am excited to be here with you guys, and I have my cup of CAF here, and I'm ready to get into the conversation of talking about New Jedi Order, continuing on with aspects of the timeline, and we will be discussing Rogue Squadron and their role, I guess you could say, in this coming invasion war for them to protect the galaxy, the livelihoods of millions or trillions of species and systems and stuff like that. Now, I might have exaggerated the numbers, but you know what I mean. And we're also going to get into, of course, Lucas Facts, Book of the Week, Cringe Factor. And I'm debating if I want to talk about something here. We will see. But I want to keep it fun and engaging with you guys, talking about the New Jedi Order. And we're also going to talk about a little bit more about the invasion, because I want to slowly go through as the time period and we talk along about the New Jedi Order, which planets are next in this invasion. So, yeah. And then, of course, the next CAF chat will have another, we'll probably talk about Luke's Jedi Order during this time frame. And then I want to talk about the Imperial Remnant, make that its own topic here coming soon. We don't really talk about them. And so I think that's very important to talk about the Imperial Remnant, because, they already, signed the peace accord back during the Thrawn duology. And there are some moments within this timeline where they turn their backs on the whole galaxy, thinking that the Vong are ignoring them, and they're not. So we could get into that, because Pelion has one of his greatest moments here in the New Jedi Order series. And so that's something worth discussing. And, of course, there's so much to talk about. And I wouldn't say it's overwhelming, but it's just exciting to look through the source book and, the novels and stuff like that, and think, damn, I can make a topic out of this. We haven't really discussed about this or that, kind of deal. So just giving you guys a glimpse of what's to come within the next month or so. Now, if you're catching me on the replay, thank you so much for coming in and watching after the fact. I totally appreciate the replays, but I also appreciate everyone here live with me now. So everyone, replay and actual live chat, hit the like button and share the link out, especially if you know people who like the New Jedi Order, are curious about it, want to begin to read it, or like me, rereading it. Maybe those who are kind of indifferent about it, because it is a dark storyline. It is very dark storyline. And I know because it's not this same old repeated, Imperial remnants attacking, and at the end, the heroes win and they go home kind of deal. This right here, some stories stories begin with, for example, the Jedi Jedi Trial. I forgot the name of the book already down, but the current one I'm on, it began with Leia with the refugees and trying to get them off the planet, because the Vong are now attacking. And these refugees are the ones that she helped rescue earlier, and they took them to another location, and now they're facing the Vong again. So it's very dark, heroic, but also feeling like they aren't going to win. I mean, it's so much weight in it. So I can ramble on just about that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say hello to you guys in the chat. All right. So we have Martial Arts Legends. Hey, OG. How are you doing, Martial Arts Legends? How are you doing? I'm happy you are here with us today. And I skipped over our channel member here, Melissa Lord. How are you doing? I hope your day is going good and work is going okay or good or fair. Soul Assassin, our mod. And you have a new app. Who is that? It almost looks like Gavin right there. Did you switch to Gavin? It almost looks like Gavin Darklighter. Yeah, so smash the like button and share the stream out. Thank you so much. And of course, he has these others here. If you're not following me on Twitter or anywhere else here, feel free to do so, because you know what I produce here on the channel, sometimes my content, I share the content over there, but X or Twitter is an extension to my YouTube channel, but there's a lot more that I do there. So Star Wars Gran, how are you doing? George Lucas loved the Skeleton Crew, and I was going to get into that. So if a show is so well done at a show within Star Wars, like the current Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, the Star Wars faux lore. That sounds kind of funny and cool at the same time, even though it's a mockery of Star Wars, Disney Star Wars. Star Wars faux lore. So if the show is really put together, really well done, all of that, you don't need to evoke George Lucas's name to qualify it. He is no longer a part of Lucasfilm or Star Wars under Disney. And they made it very clear that even if he came in to consult, or they called him, aka Filoni, saying he calls him all the time, they made it clear that they don't even have to go with what George recommends or anything like that, because why should they, after buying the property, allow the previous owner have say or whatever in the development under them, aka Disney? That is in Bob Iger's book in the chapter Star Wars, and it's very clear that they hold the stance that they will do what they want to do, F George Lucas. But then he also made it clear that Star Wars now, Star Wars for lore, isn't how he envisioned it to be when he first started making it, and also continued on developing the lore. So that's against Disney itself. So I'm going on a rant now. So I'm going to shorten this rant. So if a show is so damn good under Disney, then it shouldn't need George Lucas's name to qualify it. That has passed a long time ago. Okay, so I'm moving on. Check out my red bubble here. You can get some merch. Kidding. Oh, we know you are. You know, I know why you're saying that, and I was going to speak to that anyways. So that was a good way to get into it. So thank you for mentioning that. So handsome Gary Vader, click the thrift link. Loving that I saw the Art of War in there. Okay, cool. All right, Iron Inquisitor, how are you doing? And good morning to you as well. Cheers to everybody that's showing up in the chat. Let's see here. And this video brings joy to my soul and heart. Awesome. It must be Matt Wilkins' video, I'm guessing, because that does for everyone. That was such a great moment that he did. And so it's an honor that I'm allowed to play that here. And so you guys, if you don't know who Matt Wilkins is, he is one of them that has began the EU stance, I guess you could say, when the buyout was happening. And his channel, not all Star Wars, but it is Star Wars. So classical, original Star Wars. So go sub to him. He is the OG of the YouTube Star Wars community. He is one of the people that influenced me to change my channel, which was Native American dance type channel, to this channel here. So Disney fans say the EU ruined Anakin and Luke's story because the Empire was not destroyed at the end of Endor, and the Sith returned after Return of the Jedi. People don't realize all this was before. Yeah, the thing is the Empire its core was like, it was relatively destroyed, but then you have the warlords that were vying and pushing to be the new leader, the new emperor or empress or whatever, and to pick up where Palpatine took off. So there was a cleanup, mop up kind of situation going on, and that's common. That's common, and they did it really, really well. Now with Palpatine's return, aka return, I guess you could say, you know, that decision for him to come back as a clone was before the PT came out and stuff like that. So, but then when you look at the story, it was more or less like, you know, they're saying clone doesn't really count in a sense that, you know, or whatever. So there's a lot of story that lore within the timeline, you know, that really questions, was that really Palpatine? But then you also want to go into the thing of like, this is Luke and Leia's chance to help and redeem each other or help each other out. And so it was kind of like their moment, you know, within the timeline on destroying and redeeming. Like Leia in a sense helped redeem her brother. So it was their moment in time. Yeah. But anyways, it's an interesting topic. I still think, you know, it's okay. But there's people that don't like it, and that's fine because of that. Let me see. Hello here. The backseater. Hail Allure. How are you doing, backseater? And then the PT came out and the introduced the chosen one prophecy. So no, the EU did not ruin Luke or no, I agree what you're saying. It didn't. So, and Conrado, when Disney didn't care about Power Rangers was at its best. Well, Disney, once they get their hands on something, they seem to ruin the property some way, somehow. Star Wars Marvel Purist, another channel member. Force choke the like button and subscribe. Share the stream on all social media. And thank you so much. Let's see here. And R.A. Saboteur is never living down the 200K units malarkey. And I don't want to forget this part 2 of, I think it's like the 7 parts from HoloNet. It's the NJO documentary that he put together, aired a couple of days ago or so. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to part 1 and part 2, I highly recommend it. You put it on when you have a chance, because there's a lot of golden nuggets there regarding New Jedi Order and its development and other, you know, other things that surround it as well. So far, like all the interviews that he put up, other than his own interview with one of the authors, I think it was Lucino, I've already heard sometime in the past. So it was very nice hearing the interviews again, but in the order he put him was genius as well. So I highly recommend going over there when you have a chance. Since this channel right now is about the New Jedi Order, and it seems like this is a wave that's hitting the EU community, and I'm very proud to be one of them that has began this. You know, my rereading of the New Jedi Order has been really great, and revisiting also gives me another insight to it. Like I said before, when you have a chance to reread, there are some things that you didn't pick up from before that you do now. And so it's always worth it to reread. So I'm having fun with that. All right. I don't want to spend too long chatting with everybody in the chat, but I want to say hello to everybody. So, handsome guy, I don't have it highlighted here, but he says, I always found the Imperial Remnant fascinating. Yeah, they're pretty interesting. Pretty interesting bunch. Alora, do you think Pelion redeemed the Imperial Remnant or not? I don't know if they needed to be redeemed, really. I think they're supposed to be the way they are, and he still holds those same values and stuff to his heart. He just makes his choices and how he goes about things are from experience of what happened with in the hand of, or not the hand of Thrawn, the the heir to the Empire, and then carrying out through the new Republic era all the way into the new Jedi Order. So he cared about its survival, but the values and everything that Palpatine had was still instilled in him. So like I said, I don't really think they needed to be redeemed. They just are the way they are. All right. Star Wars Grant says, I was just mocking when the Star Wars, Star Wars. I know. Yeah, I know. There we go. OG's right. Matt Wilkins deserves to be #1 Star Wars channel. And I will say this. He is very, very honest with what he knows and what he doesn't know. He doesn't pretend to know everything. He doesn't pretend or act as if he's the authority. Like, oh, well, my channel did this first, and so now everybody's watching. He's not boastful. He just has fun sharing and educating and keeping Star Wars, the original true Star Wars, alive, especially the EU. So he deserves to be greater than Star Wars theory. I said it. All right. I'm in the camp that thinks Palpatine's clone is a different character than Palpatine himself. All right. The secret of the book of phenomenal Star Wars normie, especially the Force Diet trilogy. And Logan's Legacy, hello. Look at our what do you call it? Our residential shield is here. Residential shield. That's funny. So those shields that keep on attending my chat here on CAF Chat, you guys are now the residential shield. So, it's not, I'm going to let the chat have at you because you want to come in here and make a fuss, and that's fine. You choose your poison. I have footage of George referring to Star Wars as a Skywalker saga in 2008. Sure. Let's see here. And a lot of great stuff in part 2, including Stackpole and the cannon before the flopped under the mouse. Exactly. Let me see. Anybody else come in here? Mike is here. How are you doing? I haven't read anywhere near as many EU books as you. Only difference between me and the fence writers is I don't pretend to be a lore expert, though I most likely know more than they do. There you go. There's a lot more normies that know more than some of the fence writers. Let's see here. Anybody else hopping in? I need to say hello. Exactly. Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Hello. All right. So let's get into Lucas fact here because I want to stay on a schedule somewhat. What's a schedule? What's a schedule? What the hell is that? I just want to stay on track. Now, where is the button? Vector Prime, Cringe. There we go.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
All right. So Lucas fact, and this comes from the source James Cameron's Story of Science Fiction, page 94. James Cameron says to George, "You broke out of the pack early in film school." So this is during his interview with George, and this is what George has to say. George Lucas, "I was very fortunate. When we were there, everybody was pretty liberal. I mean, there were some people who said, quote unquote, I want to do art films like Godard, or you like Kurosawa, go do Kurosawa, and then John Ford, unquote," or finish quote. "They were very open-minded, and some of the schools, I won't mention names, it had to be artistic. My feeling when I was in film school is I'll do anything. Give me commercials. I can do commercials. I love the medium. I love to play with it. So this is about his experience and his love of the film, the art medium, film, and being creative and having his own control in a sense. Like this is how he thought, what he experienced, and his love of the medium, I guess you could say. You know, he's like, give me some commercials. I'll make commercials. You know, just to play around with that type of medium is something George absolutely loved. And we know that, you know, part of his journey, and this is another Lucas fact that maybe I'll post sometime in the future, but this is going to be a brief mention here. Part of his journey, he was going to get into art school, and he also loved comics. So he wanted to create comics as well. So, you know, any type of medium that helped him express his type of creativity, his stories and stuff like that, he was very much interested in. I get lost in the chats too. Yeah. So this right here. So I don't know what you guys think about this, but this again, like there's a whole conversation, but I just wanted to clip this part out in this conversation here about his experience, early experience, and in film school. You know, he did some groundbreaking things on his own as an independent filmmaker and created the ILM, which is where some of the groundbreaking things had happened. And it didn't only happen for the OT, it happened for the PT as well. So he was always evolving. He was always open to try new experiences and push the envelope in the film medium. And boy, did he do that. Boy, did he do that. So very, you know, interesting quote here. And it clearly shows his passion for the medium, what he, you know, and it gives you the glimpse of like where he is to go, The backseater says, I did hear a theory floating around that George Lucas was partially inspired by Jack Kirby's New Gods. You know, he liked mythos. So with that, if there's anything that has to do with mythos and all of that, he might have been attracted to it. Okay. And because I'm talking about mythos, I think this is a good segue for our next one here. Might as well get them both done nearly the same time. So here we go.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
Why, hello, Diddley Squad. How are you doing? And Obsidian Kite. Hello, I see you guys. Here is, and I do have this in front of me, but I don't want to be on camera today. I'm not ready. I am not ready to be on camera, but I have this. This book has been about the last 2 weeks. It has been mentioned on other channels here, not here, but you know, on YouTube. Star Wars: The Power of Myth. Great idea. Great idea. All right. So the editors, basically, there's really no authors, but there's editors, basically. That's how it's shown. David John, Stephen Morris, Kathy Tinknell, and Joanna Devereaux. So the publication was March 2000. So the continuity notes are just notes in general. It was published by Darlene Kindersley initially in a small number in 1999 for a European tour of some the same name, and soon after given a wider release in 2000. So it was originally published in a smaller amount in 1999. And here's the publisher summary, and it's also in the back of the book. If you ever get the book, this publisher summary is there. And I thought it was fascinating. I thought I needed to share it. No amount of film theory can explain the extraordinary appeal the Star Wars saga has for millions of people all over the world. For many, it has all the force of an alternative reality. To understand Star Wars' lasting attraction, we must look beyond thrilling actions and special effects to a very rich and universal source, the power of myth and legend. The story universe draws on a common stream of mythic tales which are rooted deeply in our own life stories. This book is a graphic visual guide to one of the greatest mythical adventures of the modern age. And this book here, now I have The Magic of Myth, and that basically just goes to the OT with the hero's journey. But this here, and I highly recommend that you buy this book here, put it in your shelf, and it has the DK and Lucas Books label on it. So if you could see at the top corners of it. It has the OT and goes through the PT. And it gives you the mythos from beginning to end. However, it starts like how the movie starts, with the OT first. It goes into mythic heroes, the call to adventure, the wise guide, the magic talisman, heroes, partners, rescuing the princess, heroes action, the sacred grove, the mystical union, sacrifice and betrayal, return of the hero, and then it goes into the descent into the underworld, reconciliation with the father, final victory, the hero ship, pod racing, Naboo starfighter. So it goes all into like the full. They have one that's called the Droids of Destiny, the Seed of Evil. So it has all these mythical stuff relating to Star Wars from the OT and into the PT. So highly recommend it. It has great visuals in there as well. Let's see here. Smash the like button. And the virgin power of many versus a Chad power of myth. I think I embarrassed our residential shill. He's gone. He's not appearing here no more. He said what he wanted to say and took off after I said that I think I'd call the shills that keep on coming in residential shills. Oh my God, I crack myself up with that. All right. So with that being said, get this book, put it on. It shouldn't cost an arm and a leg. It's one of these where you can find for like what, $5, $8, or maybe 10, maybe the most. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But get this on your shelf. It's one of them that is a valuable source when it's coming to, talking about the mythos of Star Wars, the power of myth, and I highly recommend getting Joseph Campbell's books on there too, as well, in your shelf, because then you can cross-reference and see exactly what's going on and what George played into when he created his story. So let's see here. Logan's legacy ran home to his mommy. Question. Oops. What? Which generation of Skywalkers had the most impact on the galaxy? Anakin, Luke, and Leia are the Solo twins. Or what about Cade? You're forgetting Cade Skywalker, although we only get a shorter story. So, chat, what do you think? Which generation of Skywalkers had the most impact on the galaxy? Anakin, the twins, or the Solo twins? You forget, well, Anakin, little Anakin, he didn't live that long either. So that's kind of a heartbreaking story right there that we're pushing towards in the New Jedi Order. So, chat, who do you think had the most impact? I think Luke and Leia did. Now that's I think impact. Soul Assassin, are you just saying in general impact or what? Because if you go to Anakin, once he turned to Vader, he had such a negative impact. Yeah. So, but I think Luke and Leia did. Let's see here. Lucas Gerson is here. If Disney never bought the franchise, probably Supernatural encounters the trial and transformation of Alu would release officially. Maybe we don't know. I mean, that was up in air. People sometimes authors think that their stuff was going to be published, and then towards the end they decide not to publish it. So it's crazy to think about that, but probably Luke with Leia. And let's see here. Little Anakin dying was a heartbreaker. I was looking forward to him as a character. Yeah, he still was a character, but we didn't get the continuation. We didn't get him into adulthood. And George really wasn't wanting him to be killed off in a sense. So, but okay, things happen. I think Anakin did, because if he helped Windu kill Palpatine, everything wouldn't have changed. Interesting. Okay. Luke and Leia had biggest impact. So far, Luke and Leia are the top choice of you guys in the chat. And I am airing on X. So those who are on X Twitter, you could share in the comments there. I'll go back and look at them later on. Who do you think had the bigger impact? I'm forgetting that I do, I am streaming on my Twitter account as well. So those who are tuning in on that side, feel free to comment down below. You're not going to get a quick response from me right now, but it's still, you're still participating. Let's see here. Quite the thinker, isn't it? It is quite, you put down a bomb on us right now. So, but that's good. I mean, because when you look at the story in general, with Anakin versus his kids and stuff, I think he had a shorter impact. But he was a catalyst for Luke and Leia and their impact, if you think about that. But then Luke and Leia were the catalyst for the twins and even Anakin. And then you have going into like near 100 years into Kate Skywalker and what happened there. So all of them influenced their timelines in a unique way, whether it was dark or light, good or bad. One couldn't happen without the other. Anakin Solo deserved a future married with Tahiri Vela and have children. Oh, once we get to that point and we talk about the Solo kids, yeah, that's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough talk. It's going to be a tough talk. Yeah, so close this out here with the book of the week, Star Wars, The Power of Myth. I didn't see if you can get on thrift books, but I'm pretty sure you could find almost anywhere for cheap, not that much. And so I highly recommend that you put it on as a source on your bookshelf. Something fun to explore, to understand the power of myth when it came to Star Wars. And another one. Oh, look at our residential shield is back. So, all right. So let's go ahead and close this one out. Now, those of you who have the New Jedi Order source book, bring that out. We are going to start talking about Rogue Squadron. And I'm going to use, and I didn't annotate in here. Usually I annotate in some books, but I decided not to. Since this is more of a collector's item now than anything else. Annotating means, if you guys don't know, is like making notes inside your book on things that you feel important. like for research and stuff. You could do that with sticky pads and stuff like that. I just haven't done that either. But I no need to. So we're going to talk about Rogue Squadron. So you can have that out. Rogue Squadron is mentioned from page 52, if you want to do that and follow along. Let's see here. The year has only started. Stay tuned for what the rest of the year holds for CAF Chat. Woo, yes. Right on. I just dropped by to say hi. So see you then. Thank you so much, Obsidian Kite, for coming in and saying hello and hanging out with us for a few. I highly appreciate that. Let's see here. Let's get into this. So let me pull up the screen right here. Now, you guys know me. I'm a big friggin' nerd when it comes to trying to give you guys the experience of what we're going to talk about lore-wise. Whether it's a video, whether it is a PowerPoint kind of thing here, it just puts us more into the experience. And it's just fun to do. It's just fun to make. And so this right here, of course, we have the Vector Prime and the Vong Advanced. So this is something, can I zoom? Nope, I can't. Damn it. All right. So this is basically the Vector Prime where they started at, and of course some of the planets that they struck over time. I will update this soon for the further advancements, but right now we're still initially up in the northern hemisphere, I guess you could say, of the Star Wars map, and where Vector Prime started and all that. So we're still in the general area. I don't know if you could see my cursor. I'm all using it as if you could see it, but if you can't, that's okay. And then, so here we go. So this is a more of a zoom in here. Vector Prime and the Vong Advancement 25 to 26 ABY. And we are going to talk about the Rogue Squadron here. And also about what planets are up next in this invasion. So I think it's only a couple right now. I'll add more as we go along. So I still want to keep the advancement of the invasion of planets and what came next, and maybe discuss a little bit about that, but also with a greater topic of, talking about, Rogue Squadron or Imperial Remnant or the New Jedi Order or the New Republic. Oh God, that is going to be a crazy talk, you guys. When we get into the New Republic and talk about them in general as a whole in this whole entire time frame, holy crap. It's going to piss you guys off on how they turn on the galaxy. A little sneak peek here. And I know Scran, he was like, the New Republic's pissing me off. And I'm like, yep, you just wait. You just wait, because the New Republic is the reason why Coruscant falls. Yep. And so that's just a glimpse into the future of this talk. Yep, handsome guy, Gary. The New Republic had some bad leadership. Mandalore first, that's all I got to say. And I can't wait to get into the Mandalorians during this time frame, because we'll get into Boba Fett. Yep. Boba Fett, who I think at this time is now Mandalore. Yep. So he is basically living out legacy who his father or his, he was cloned to be. He was cloned to, to honor, damn it. Not only Jango Fett, but not Jaster. Jaster? Yeah. Honor the legacy of Mandalore. Yep. Let me take a drink here. Whose bright idea? That's making me crack. I kind of lost my train of thought when I was reading that, so I got to share. Whose bright idea was it to make Borsk Falia the prime minister? Well, those who voted him in. We all know in our history you know, we sometimes the general public makes such worse or bad choices when they put people into leadership. The books made it impossible not to hate leadership of the New Republic. They were off, of course. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. And let's see here. And I love chatting with you guys. Yeah, before he turned him into a meme. Yeah, that was awful, right? Like a bantha. Just wait, Scran, especially Borsfalia, a lot of crazy shit. Yes, a lot of crazy shit. Man, I mean, I should have, I'm like, no, the New Republic's not really the conversation here, so I'm just going to hold back on what I have to say. So stay tuned for that. And Scran, he's already seen it. He's like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So let's get into this. Now, Rogue Squadron. How many of you guys are a huge fan of Rogue Squadron? And who is your favorites out of the Rogues? Yep. A big question here. If you're like, are you a fan of Rogue Squadron, and who's your favorite Rogue? And it doesn't have to be Wedge, even though if it is, that doesn't, you know, I'm not going to say, oh, Wedge, that's an easy answer. No. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to be Wedge. And so if it's someone else, don't worry, because Wedge is a very popular one. Tycho is another popular one. If you have another one that's your favorite, go ahead and say it. If it's not Wedge, that's fine. If it's not Tycho, that's fine. But who is your favorite Rogue pilots? And are you a big fan of the Rogues? They've been through a lot since Luke and Wedge formed the Rogue Squadron. It was because of them. Fuck you, Soul Assassin. Oh my God. Alphabet Squadron all the way. I almost spit out my coffee. F you. Fuck you, Soul Assassin. Yes, I cussed. I cussed at my mod, but he knows that. He provoked this. He knows what the hell he's doing. Yes, Jaina. And we'll get into that. We'll get into Jaina becoming a Rogue member. Mike says Tycho is his second. Cool. All right. All right. So Hobby, pretty cool. Hobby, another one. He's laughing. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. Handsome says, I'd pick Luke or Jaina. Okay. And well, honorary, we have an honorary talk about twin sons. Let's see here. Let me see here. My fault for being so curious about. No. You are at the right place on being curious about the EU. Heck, if you're barely getting into the EU or you don't know much and you want to expand your knowledge, you are in the right place. Although the greater topic right now is New Jedi Order, it's still the EU. And once you start reading, if you haven't read the New Jedi Order, once you start reading, and maybe then start reading the other material around it and stuff and start reading through the EU, you're going to see so much callbacks, tie-ins, and all that make Star Wars a beautiful historical timeline. I said it because once you get into the EU and you start being seasoned in it, start reading through it and stuff like that, you'll start catching like, oh yeah, okay, that happened there. It's a callback, or they're referring back to this history back in this time frame. So you'll see a lot of that. It's a beautiful historical time frame. Booster, my man. Let's see here. And all right. So with that being said, during this time frame, Gavin Darklighter is now colonel in command of Rogue Squadron. Okay, so here we go. And this is I love this image right here with the X-Wings, Luke and Mara with Ben, and we have Wedge here. All right. So this is what Wedge said to Gavin Darklighter. Biggs was us, our Biggs was with us at the start, and you are with us when we restarted Rogue Squadron. In many ways, the Darklighters and their victories and sacrifices are more emblematic of Rogue Squadron than anything Tycho and I have done. It's certainly the right thing to have you in charge. So this is when the big guns retire. And they only retire for a long or short period of time. These poor guys, Tycho and Wedge, they never have a full retirement. If you know the timeline and what's going on and stuff, they always come out of retirement. But this was to Biggs when he was being promoted and when he got promoted and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm thinking like Wedge is being so humble because, yes, Wedge and Tycho had a significant part with Rogue Squadron. And I think he's just paying homage to the Darklighters here and their family history as well within the Rogue Squadron. And Biggs dying a hero. So little flashback there. We all know when Biggs dies. It's in, you know, the OT in A New Hope or Star Wars. And you know, so and then if you have read the X-Wings, Biggs comes in as, I think he was 16 or 17, something like that. So he comes in basically almost like underage in a sense. So he's the youngest, still very naive, and I guess you could say wet behind the ears, but earns his place in the Rogue Squadron. So, and not many will say, oh, well, Biggs Darklighter is my favorite character or favorite rogue. I'm going to say character, but rogue. And that's fine. Oh, yes, handsome guy. Mara, Ben, and Luke. Yeah, big feels. That time frame and this image, too, is also New Jedi Order because Ben Skywalker was born during the middle of the crisis. Yep. And not trying to go off topic, but it's still New Jedi Order. Quiz for you all. Let's see. Who knows? Where was Ben Skywalker born? Where was Ben Skywalker born? Do you know? Where was Ben Skywalker born? I'm going to write it out in the chat. And I will just put a hint here. I don't know if it's a hint, but it may be to help you recall if you read the series. Luke and Mara were fleeing Coruscant when she was in labor. Luke and Mara were fleeing Coruscant, and actually they were told to leave or they would be arrested. So huge story behind that. Again, another story for another time. Damn, I sound like that fucking character in The Force Awakens. Fuck that shit. But anyways, they were fleeing because if they didn't, they would have been arrested. But she was in labor. Soul Assassin, I am at a loss. Dude. That's all you're going to get from me. He spent his infancy in the Maw installation, yes, but where was he born? All right. So how many know, what do you guys know about Rogue Squadron during this time frame? What do you guys know about Rogue Squadron in this time frame? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I want to get you guys thinking or intrigued in reading the book. Reading the books or picking them up again. And then I'll answer, if no one answers here pretty soon, about the location. Handsome guy says, or Gary says, I can't remember. It's been too long. Yep. Ding, 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 right here. Jordan Star Wars, born on the errant venture. Yes. So there was an arrest, a warrant out for Luke and Mara during the time. Yes, I'm telling you, the New Republic was fucking crazy. And Kenneth Hamner was the one that warned them and told them that they're willing, like the New Republic officials were willing to turn the other way if they just left Coruscant quietly. And during that time frame, and this is all, I'm saying this in a nutshell, there's a lot more things going on during this time. And during their time, I guess you could say evacuating Coruscant, she was in labor. She was going through some labor. The tears and the artificial tears to help keep her healthy from the spores sickness that she had wasn't working as much, or started failing. And so they had to get her somewhere safe. And Errant Venture was the place. So, and that's where Ben was born. So a lot going on during that time frame. Again, like I said, New Republic had a warrant out for them too. Again, we will get more into this once we talk about the New Republic. They were fucking lunatics. I swear to God, like their leadership. And I'm just going to say this now and we'll get more into it. They were basically accusing Leia for being xenophobic. Yep. So another thing. So I'm getting you guys all juiced up for that talk. Let's see here. And who else is hopping in? His infancy was in the Maw installation. Let's see here. Oh, that's right. She had the sickness thing. Yeah. The cum spores or whatever it's called. Yeah. So, yeah. So let's get into this here because I've been jabbering. But I wanted to, hey, Kenneth, how you doing? I see you. I've been jabbering too long, but I wanted to give you guys, you know me, a lot of you guys who are like seasoned with CAF chat and are always in the CAF chat, or at least here on many occasions, will know that I love to throw out little quizzes and stuff to get you guys thinking about the lore and stuff like that. So, and I'm never going to stop. I'm never going to stop. I think it's fun to offer that kind of stuff, even if you don't know, because if you don't know, you don't know, but then you're going to learn once the answer is revealed. So it's a learning opportunity for everyone. So Rogue Squadron, an elite starfighter squadron that serves as the New Republic symbol of starfighter superiority, as well as its most effective tool against enemy aggression, including the best pilots in the New Republic Defense Force. Now we know that that's something that was always been an honor. And if you guys haven't seen my my brief video, my brief history of Rogue Squadron, it's up on my channel. It gives a brief, literally brief history of how it was founded and what Luke envisioned with it. And part of his vision with the Rogues is being a squadron, a group of fighters that has no set purpose or mission, so that they can take on any mission that were granted towards them. So they're available anytime. And also from the reformation, actually, that wasn't necessarily the reformation of the Rogue Squadron, but through that, they also wanted the best pilots possible for this squadron. They became basically the force against their enemies. a force to reckon with. And when Wedge Antilles reestablished the Rogues, because they dismantled them for a short time. There was a dismount. It wasn't necessarily dismantled, but I guess you could say it was. But it was a very short period of time. And Wedge went on a tour, and then he came back and he created the Rogues, and then he created the Wraiths. And those two worked together on missions many times. But through that, you know, they're like, we need the best pilots possible, because we want survivability to increase. So there's a lot of history behind that. And I think it's worth looking into the history of Rogue Squadron and how it's formed, why it was formed, what the purposes are. And yeah, but they are basically the most elite, the top elite of the forces under the New Republic. And they continue to be that way all the way into Cade Skywalker's time. So, and there are, I think in Cade's time, there was no Skywalkers within the squadron at all. But we at least had Jaina at one point after Luke. Leia wasn't necessarily a gifted pilot, so she never, made her way into starfighting. Her purpose was more or less rebuilding and establishing the New Republic and stuff like that, and then finally settling in and becoming a Jedi Knight. So that's her in a nutshell. Man, there's a lot of shit, huh? There's a lot of stuff. It's all good, but there's a lot of history with these characters. And man, like the 30s plus years before the buyout of all this history within this franchise, this lore, man, great stuff. Great stuff. Handsome Gary says, the Vong were tough customers. I played a lot of Star Wars miniatures. Laugh out loud. They were tough to beat there too. Yeah, and the source book too for the role-playing game, If you were to do a role-playing game for New Jedi Order, would you be a Vong or would you be a Jedi? Would you be a Rogue? What would you be? I know I'm asking these questions. We're going to get more into Rogue. What would you be? What would you be? If we establish, just hypothetical. If I said with you guys, hey, on Saturdays, let's form a role-playing adventure. We'll use my channel link. We'll use my StreamYard link here. We'll meet up and we'll play New Jedi Order. What would you be? What would be your character? Darth Bane if he was an option. No, we're talking about New Jedi Order timeline. Star Wars Marvel Pierce. I really need to update my avatars, and I need to put a Gatekeepers Alliance type avatar or Star Triggered in there. So stay tuned for that. But this is about New Jedi Order. Okay, so we have Handsome Gary, Jedi, of course. Okay. I'd be the Vong. Okay, that is from, I'd be the Vong, John says. Okay. So I can hit their bong. The Vong hit the bong. Savang La, there you go. Justin, Star Wars Marvel Pierce, went straight to Savang La. Okay. Let's see here. I still have my character from the late 90s. Awesome. That's freaking cool. I wish there's a lot of things I don't have anymore that I had because of some circumstances that happened in my life. Soul Assassin says the most random character ever. He's relatively new to the New Jedi Order timeline. He knows of it, but he's like a normie. And so this is the learning experience from him. And I've been giving him, I've been telling him, this is what we're going to talk about. Have fun researching this. So he kind of has an idea. So, so we have people in here that are new to it, or somewhat new, or we have people that have been well seasoned in the New Jedi Order. All right. So let's push on here. I just thought that was very random, but the question popped into my head. I'm like, I got to ask it now. All right. So the members of the squadron has changed countless times since Luke created the initial roster after the Battle of Yavin. Most of those changes have been made to replace pilots killed in battle. It's tragic. It is really tragic having to replace because you lost a fighter, a pilot. as long as the Rogue Squadron endured, the citizens of the New Republic have hope that someone is out in space protecting them. That's a big role to take. That is a big role to take. Soul Assassin, he isn't random. He isn't random soul. Yeah, you're not random at all. Not at all. You're quite a character, Soul Assassin. You are. The Yuuzhan Vong invasion puts the skills of the Rogue Squadron to the test, armed with tactical data from the Yuuzhan Vong's attack on Dubrilion. So they took that attack, they recorded some tactical information, and they used it to learn how to fight against them. They took that tactical data, put it in the simulators, recreated and analyzed so that the pilots can train and get to know these coral skippers and their tactics and stuff like that. And which is brilliant. I really enjoyed reading about that. And Rogue Squadron has run numerous tactical simulations against generated Yuuzhan Vong core skippers, only to fail every time, and always within the first minute of the counter. Unless they can come up with the spectacular tactics when they face the real thing, they are almost certainly doomed. And who was it? I can't remember who it was, but one of the pilots lasted so many seconds, but that was a success run because everybody was dying immediately. That's how much less they knew about their new foes, because this species and their biological ships, weapons, all of that was something very new to them. So they were working overtime to find ways to counter the attacks, survive them, and defeat them. Just imagine that. The best squadron in the whole galaxy. The squadron that everybody puts on a pedestal, rightfully so, and they can barely hold their own against the Vong. And so I'm going to get into Gavin Darklighter, the Rogue Squadron commander. Now, what do you guys know about Gavin Darklighter? Is there anything that comes to mind about him? Like, we've seen him grow up in Rogue Squadron. If you are privy, if you've read the X-Wing series, you would know more about him then. If you haven't, then maybe not, and rightfully so. Star Wars Marvel Pierce. I know about him through Biggs. Back when the Star Wars galaxy dealt with real challenges and faced life or death. Yes, this series right here. Again, you got to listen to 1 and 2 of the New Jedi Order documentary by HoloNet. And I got to check my email because I need to schedule Talking EU with him. So stay tuned for that. Talking EU coming up here in the future with HoloNet. All right. Melissa Lord. Oh, you're talking to Tyrannazilla. Hello, Tyrannazilla. Back when Star Wars was... Yeah, I read that one already. All right. So Gavin the Darklighter was promoted as the commander. Colonel Darklighter was promoted after Wedge Antilles retired from active duty. He is a Tatooine native and veteran of the countless starfighter missions, took over command of Rogue Squadron. The younger brother of Biggs Darklighter, a rebel hero, Gavin began his career as something of a hotshot pilot. His time as a rogue matured him. When Antilles stepped down, Darklighter was ready for command. And like I said earlier, Wedge and even Tycho, they never really retired fully at all. There was moments in their career, I think maybe Justin or someone here knows how many times Wedge has retired. I think it's twice or maybe 3, but they always came back. Is Biggs and Gavin related? Oh, just answered my question with that. Well, oh, you're so funny. Oh my God, Soul Assassin. I love the simulation results. Gavin gets smoked. Yes. Oh, damn. That was hilarious. All right. I'm putting my hair up in a little bun here. It's all over my back and everything. Let's see here. And so Colonel Darklighter sees the Yuzhong Vong's threat as a daunting problem. In his initial simulating run against Yuzhong Vong core skippers, he performed poorly, only to learn that his low survival time was the best of his squadron. Okay, so it was Gavin. I wasn't sure. I couldn't recall. He knows that actual engagement with Yuzhong Vong forces will test his squadron to its breaking point. However, he also knows that by serving as the symbol of the New Republic military skills, he can never refuse a mission against the invaders. So there you go. So we have a competent, seasoned rogue as the commander who has the blessing of Tycho and Antilles. And then later, he brings in, or soon after, he brings in Jaina Solo. They have already lost a few in some missions because of that. I mean, God, you gotta read through this. It's so crazy. Like, those who haven't read yet, you're gonna be like surprised. Like, those who have already read it, blah blah, knows what I'm talking about. Let's see here. And we have Alex here. How are you doing? But was Wedge queer coded, and should we explore that? Oh, I'm like holding up my middle finger to you. I know I'm joking though. And he's a channel member. I know what you're saying here. I hate what they did to Wedge in Disney. I absolutely do not like that direction they took him. And so I get what you're saying here. It's like Disney's Wedge has nothing on the true original Wedge and how he was created in Star Wars, the true Star Wars. All right. I would like to say I've really getting into pre-Disney expanded universe as of late. Currently reading novel Revan. Be finishing it soon. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoy that journey. You are like what 3,000 or so years from the timeline we're talking about. So you're on the opposite end of the historical timeline. Interesting. I hope you're enjoying that. Competency, rare for the New Republic. All right. So Jaina Solo, she is one of the Skywalker family members that comes in as a rogue. And this might be a surprise to some of you guys, maybe not. But between her and her brother, her twin, she's the best pilot. Oh my fucking God. A woman is a better pilot. What? And I'm going to go to this point. Disney, Star Wars, under Disney, under Lucasfilm, Disney Lucasfilm. Remember when they were feeding to us that there was no female heroes, protagonists, or strong females within, and you can say leads too. Protagonist is a lead in Star Wars before. So that's why they had to push Rey on us, the Mary Sue, because they felt that she needed to fit all these things that Star Wars never had, and they end up writing her as a Mary Sue. Yet we have Jaina Solo, the daughter of Leia and Han Solo. Leia, holy shit, wasn't she the first lady female protagonist of Star Wars? I think so, but you know, under Disney Lucasfilm, that did not exist before until Rey. See this revisionist history going on? So we have Jaina Solo here, who was invited into the Rogue Squadron. And later on, she does become Rogue leader for a short amount of time. A bit of Rogue history here. Her brother, Colonel Jason Solo or whatever, ordered her to fire on a cargo ship that wasn't really armed. Cargo passenger ship or something like that. I don't remember which one it was, or both or whatever. And she refused out of her own morals and as a pilot and stuff like that, and knowing their rules, I guess you could say, she refused. And during that time, she was Rogue Commander. She earned her spot there. And because she refused his command, she got reprimanded by her brother and suspended, and I think she stepped away or something like that. So a little bit of Rogue history there with Jaina going on forward. After amply demonstrating her skill in a TIE fighter while fighting Yuzhong Vong Coral Skippers over Dubrillion, that's in the Folly, Lando's Folly. Jaina Solo is a natural choice to replenish the ranks of Rogue Squadron. And we're going to say, and I'm going to talk an honorary talk about Kip Duran's dozen, but I'll get to that here pretty soon. Jaina Solo's natural choice to replenish the ranks of Rogue Squadron. Ironically, her first duty is again at Dubrillion, helping to cover the evacuation of the small fleet of civilian transports and military fighters. After the eye-opening first flight with the New Republic's elite starfighter pilots, Jaina quickly becomes part of the unit. Despite her facility with the Force and her ability to anticipate enemy attacks before they hit, she never loses touch with the reality of war. People are dying, and it's her job to save them. She begins to drift away from her Jedi ideals when it becomes too easy to think of the enemy as a tactical puzzle to be solved. As the Battle of Dantooine takes shape, Colonel Darklighter and Admiral Creefy explain that her mission would include killing as many Vong ground troopers as quickly as possible. It never even occurs to Jaina how close to the dark side her mission might take her. So we have this here with Jaina. She gets promoted. She gets seen when she is in one of the TIE fighters, Lando specialty TIE fighters, in one of the first battles of Dubrillion. And this is where I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, though, I believe that Anakin Solo does the battle melt for the first time, and it hasn't been seen within are used by Jedi in a very, very long time. And so he brings that and he puts him and his brother and sisters in the battle meld, and they have success with it. But despite that, she also earns her keep on her own tactical, fighting abilities. So very interesting to see, and during this time frame, I think one of the reasons why Jason was never considered or never seen as a great pilot and stuff like that was that he was too much his piloting skills probably was never inherited as much as Jaina's from their dad and from their uncle. But he was also in his head. He was contemplating himself as a Force user, as a Jedi, using the Force, how they should use the Force, all of this. So his mind was always occupied with that. And along that line. So if you're familiar with Jason's story in that sense, then that makes sense to why his studies never went past what he's been contemplating himself as a Jedi and as a Force user and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now let me see here. I want to... Where is it? Where is Kip Duran's 20 or 12 or dozen? I thought I had it marked, or at least remembered. But during that time, I really don't need to read anything, but during that time, Kip has had his dozen. And so they were mostly all Force users that comprised that, maybe with the exception of one, that made up his dozen. And he was also looking at Jaina to join. And Jaina, she had her reasons for refusing. And so she never did. So and her, I guess, her legacy was more with the Rogue Squadron. Let me see what John is saying here. The Battle of Dantooine, when Luke is actually fighting alongside his nephew, students, and the Twilight commander of the Republic, coordinates with him and reverse Jedi. Glad to have them. Let's see here. And Dantooine. A great planet, Force crystals, purple fauna, great creatures. Yep, and then the Vong end up destroying it. All right. Let's see here. Excuse me. All right. I think I looked at all the chat here. Follow me on Twitter. So new starship tactics. As the war against the Vong continues, New Republic pilots find ingenious new ways of countering their enemy's defense. In the early months of the war, Coral Skippers have a considerable edge against New Republic starfighters, including the new XJ X-Wing. Their Dovin Basils not only improve their own shields, but also a Coral Skipper to quickly strip away shields from enemy ships. As the war progresses, a New Republic Defense Forces Committee devises methods of countering Yuzhong Vong starship tactics, excuse me, allowing the XJ X-Wings to fare better against the Coral Skippers. So if you guys don't know, the Coral Skippers, once their plasma shots hit the shields around like an X-Wing or even ship, it starts weakening their defenses, almost like it disintegrates their shields. And it does it fairly quickly. So that's what caught them off guard as well. All right, let me see, where was I at? Until the New Republic has gathered enough data on how the Yuzhong Vong ships function, it is unlikely that a hero would stumble upon these strategies on his own. Instead, heroes should be given the option to use these tactics as they come available. And so as a matter of, so we have them still trying to figure out how to get around the coral skippers and the other Yuuzhan Vong defenses, and how exactly they work and where their weak spots are at. And I believe at one point, and was it Luke? I could be wrong, but I remember that one of them starfighter pilots, whether it was Rogue Squadron or not, was shooting into a coral skipper or one of the main vessels, and realized that if they kept on shooting in, because when they shot towards them and it looked like they hit, it was almost like they were sucking their torpedoes in and using it again as to recharge them, I guess you could say. But anyways, when they learned that when they started to continuously fire and fire and fire and fire, eventually the Vong defenses on their ships gave in and exploded. And it was almost like they said when they shot at the Vong, that it would open up almost like a black hole and consume the torpedo and stuff like that. And so they learned also too, at a certain point they could shoot and then shoot another at a certain point, to where before it absorbs the shot at a certain point, and it's all about timing, that they would it would explode before the absorption happens, and the ship would then explode. So there's a lot of these little tactics that they've been discovering and stuff like that, finding weak points and stuff. But it took them a long time, and it took various lives before they can finally come up with and find those weaknesses. So that was very interesting. All right. So with that being said, Rogue Squadron in the beginning here, because we're just talking about the early invasion still. With that being said, the Rogue Squadron right here is basically tied up with finding tactics and ways to defeat their enemy. And this is something that, you know, you could see that like Gavin and all of them are losing sleep, because you know they have to protect these lives, and this all of this is happening out in the outer rim. And so I have this map here. This is on the time of the dark tide. This is from Onslaught here, and all the black with the yellow circled planets are already taken by the Vong. So from there, I did show, and I should have left the other map up. I should have done that, but I didn't. Ruins here too. I should have put ruin, but I won't. So, but from Vector Prime, I'm trying to find it. Where is it? But from the last one I shared with you guys until now, you have, like I shared, like their very first campaign. This is when they settled in, I guess you could say, spies. And that was Bemil. But they went through Belkaden, Helska, Serpendel, Dubrillion, and then now they're going through to Monolith and Dantooine and Bastion. So, and then the other one, which is within the Dark Tides timeline, I should have put both of them up, and I didn't. Where did it go? They now have Athomir, Ithor, Agamar, Garki as well. And we know that, you know, Cornhorn has been a part of Rogue Squadron, but at this point now he's more or less more of a Jedi now. He's not with Rogue anymore. But once we talk about the new Jedi Order, we'll talk about Cornhorn, because we're in the early stages. So we're all discussing, or I am with you guys, the early stages of the invasion. So we're still in the early stages. They haven't made their full way towards the core just yet. We're still in the outer regions. And Ithor is a big change for Corran Horn, and also for the Jedi, because that also gives the New Republic more ammo against the Jedi. So, and so we'll go into that later on. So let me see what you guys are. It doesn't diffuse, but just keeps burning like acid on the. Yeah, okay, yeah, like acid, yeah. But it weakens it and diffuses it too as well. So it weakens and it causes a chain reaction. So, but so we all have our way of explaining it. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I know you get what I'm saying. All right. So if you guys have any questions about Rogue Squadron at this point, feel free to ask any or share anything else that I may have missed. I mean, there's so many we can get into Rogue Squadron. I was like, where should I start at? It's like there's so much. Like I was pulling out the books that I reread so far, and I was like, should I talk about this or that? Because we could sit here and talk a couple hours just on Rogue Squadron during the New Jedi Order. So, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of the quote unquote meat and potatoes of it all with Rogue Squadron, because we'll come back to them as well as we further along the timeline of this historical event for the New Jedi Order, because there's a lot going on. Because I want to talk about when Wedge and Tycho come back fully during this time frame. They reach out to Gavin and say that they are here behind the scenes to help him out. So they're not fully out of retirement yet. So, but then later on, when we get into the New Republic and all the shenanigans with them and stuff like that, Wedge is fully established back with the Rogue Squadrons and stuff like that, or at least as a starfighter pilot, and so on and so forth. So we'll get more into later conflicts and Rogue Squadron stance and stuff like that within the war as well. So I don't want to give everything all at once, especially when my theme here is slowly getting in and making the way through the invasion. So might as well talk about everyone involved during this, as well as the Vong during this time frame. So there we go. And we got to get into cringe factor. So this one should be fun. So if you have any questions, or if you want to say anything about anything we discussed here, feel free to, type it out, and we could discuss that. We might go over my 2-hour mark that I like to keep us at, but that's okay. So anything you want to say about the Coral Skippers and the Vong's fighting techniques? Because of course that's another topic. We could discuss a little bit of it right now, or we can discuss it later in full. So, all right. And I have 54 beautiful souls watching here on YouTube and X. Thank you so much for your support. And if the New Jedi Order is new to you, welcome. I'm so glad you are here listening in and learning. This is something that is 10 times more interesting than anything Disney full lore can put out when it comes to Star Wars. And it's more tragic. Yes, it's more dark, but there's a lot that keeps you interested in when it comes to past heroes and new heroes, the deaths of people or species, and what's at stake. All right. So with that being said, I think that's the last of my slide here. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. We are going to get into cringe factor. So now's your chance. If you need to refill your beverage, do so. If you need to go use the restroom, go do so. If you need to grab a meal or a snack, go do so.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
So uncivilized.
All right. So uncivilized. Well, that didn't go out pretty smooth through my voice. I always get raspy towards the end. So let's see if Screen Rat will work for me this time around. This time around. So, the 5 biggest Star Wars mistakes that have been fixed in the last 48 years. What do you think that is? What do you think the 5 biggest mistakes that have been fixed in the last 48 years? And what do you think they are, basically? And when do you think that this happened? Hey, grumpy old ninja. What's up? All right, so let's get into this. Oh, okay, let me go ahead and undo that. I always say I need a pop-up ad thingy so that we don't get much of these, but I never look into any. And I just love this picture of Leia. She's so gorgeous. All right. As tremendous as Star Wars may be, well, original Star Wars is very tremendous, as we know, as we're reading through the New Jedi Order and talking about it. There have been many stumbles in the franchise's 48-year history, but the passage of time has meant a lot have been, or the past, okay, but the passage of time has meant a lot have been fixed. Okay, that doesn't make sense. And this is by Thomas Bacon. Mr. Bacon has been a huge contributor to Cringe Factor, but the passage of time has meant a lot have been fixed. When the first Star Wars movie released back in 1977, even George himself never expected it to be the beginning of a franchise that would last for almost half a century and counting. Well, it did last until Disney bought it and killed it, but that's a story we could discuss later. The genius of Star Wars lies in the seamless blend of familiar tropes and archetypes that's with a wonderful, fresh, and original galaxy, resulting in a story that left viewers captivated. Okay. That doesn't mean Star Wars is faultless, of course. Of course he's going to go down this line. What do you expect? But wait till you see who and how and what fixed these so-called errors and what they really are. I can't wait to see your guys' reaction in the chat. Course corrections led to so many plot holes and retcons, and some scenes now feel rather awkward in light of later revelations like The Empire Strikes Back, Luke Leia kiss. Oh, that is not something that's bad at all. And I'm going to go ahead and share why. Leia and Han was already established in having a relationship because, you know, as they were fighting through the halls, as he was saying that he was leaving, we find out that there's already a budding relationship there. And in their fighting about that relationship, well, Luke was in the med center. She kisses Luke to make Han jealous. That wasn't a kiss that was something Luke and Leia did just out of passion. She did that to make Han jealous. It wasn't reciprocated, basically. Because Lucas tapped into popular culture of the time, both with the original trilogy and the prequels, some story elements haven't dated well. What do you think? Do you think the story elements of the original trilogy and prequels never dated well? I thought they were timeless. You know, it doesn't really need the EU to keep it, you know, fresh, I guess you could say. The EU just expands on the storylines and the characters outside the movies. It never needed TCW to correct anything either. So Thomas Bacon is suggesting that Star Wars isn't timeless, but yet it is, because even like I'm a child of the original, the OT, kind of sharing my age here. My kids are basically, you know, the children of the PT in a sense, if you want to go generational. However, doesn't mean they frown upon the OT. Why? Because it's a timeless piece, just like the PT. It ends up being a timeless piece. Timeless means that it withstands all generations, that the story is written so well that it can be relatable no matter what generation comes in to watch it or what century we are in from when it was originally created. That's timeless because it had timeless themes that were relatable, heroes that were relatable no matter what, even though that they're in a space science fiction type story that, you know, we can't really relate to them in a sense of like how they live and what type of vehicles they drive and stuff like that. But their stories, their journeys and stuff is relatable with how they react, how they lived and experienced them. That's timeless. All right. So number 5, Slave Leia becomes the Hutt Slayer. They really think that this is something that needed to be fixed, that this ruined the story. This bacon guy thinks that this ruined the story. We'll see. Let's see here. Let's start with one of the most controversial moments in Return of the Jedi, Slave Leia. You guys, when was Slave Leia ever a controversial moment? In fact, this was her heroic moment. In this scene, Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia is held prisoner by Jabba the Hutt. He reduces the strong and confident rebel leader to a sex symbol, chained to his side, and even gives her a grotesque lick. George Lucas wanted to tap into a popular fantasy tropes, pointing to fantasy artist Frank Frazetta as inspiration. Associated with covers for the canon of the Barbarian books, Franzetta's art featured women as either skimpily clad damsels to be rescued or seductresses who had to be vanquished. So what do you guys think? I'm going to come in here and see what you guys are saying. Let's see here. Star Wars. Okay. Okay, there we go. Did you ever play Star Wars Rogue Squadron on PC? You know what? I didn't play games after a certain point in my life because there was other things going on in my life that I just couldn't play games. Not that I didn't want to. Controversial what? Right? This bacon needs to be cooked. She killed the guy who had housed that needing rescuing. Her outfit looks a lot like some Frazetta's Princess of Mars stuff. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, how are you doing? Let's see here. All right, so let's get back into this article here. And here we go. To be fair to Lucas, the plot of Return of the Jedi subverts to this trope, as Fisher herself came to realize Leia's ultimate ultimately takes the chains that have bound her and uses them to throttle Jabba's death with them. But let's be honest, this isn't why the look is remembered. Fisher prophesies that the gold bikini was what supermodels will eventually wear in the 7th ring of hell. You know what? This guy, this bacon guy does not get Carrie Fisher's humor. And he takes a quote that probably was just a huge fucking joke. And I wish I would have researched this so we can look, so I could talk further on that, but I didn't. So I apologize. But what I'm thinking, and I'm probably tuned for that. I'm going to research this, that she was joking. But he thinks she's not, because he says, and she was right. For a time, there was rumors that Disney had decided to discontinue any merchandise associated with Slave Leia back into. So the only problem was by Disney, was never by the fans. We had women in the past, and even made it in like the Insider and also Star Wars online platforms during the time, dressed up as Slave Leia. Our own Melissa Lord has the costume. No one had a problem with that. This scene here with Leia being captured by Jabba, it shows how grotesque he is, but it also shows how vigilant she was. She claimed a victory from becoming his slave, I guess you could say, his dance slave. This is her heroic moment. And yet Disney was like offended by this scene. Then in 2016, author Claudia Gray, you guys remember this? I think I talked about this before. I don't think I've ever did a video though on it. Claudia Gray spotted an exciting movement in the fandom that allowed her to reinterpret the gold bikini in her tremendous novel Bloodline, as she explained in the movie Web. Right around when I was working on this part of the book, there was a movement that went around in some Star Wars fan circles. A lot of talk about how much people don't like the Slave Leia outfit. Oh, I bet you just blame. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to read this. That's her most powerless moment in the entire thing. No, it's not. Do you? There was a lot of strength for her to have to sit in that as a slave, like just to be enslaved by Jabba. She held her poise pretty good. Yes, it was a dancing girl's outfit, but it gets called a slave outfit. I believe it was, but it's still, the dancing girls were his slaves. I believe it was a young lady named Angie P who said, I petition that we call it the Hut Slayer outfit. And I was like, that's a great name. And that is going to happen right now. Not only did I like the recasting of that outfit as a memory of Leia being really strong and kick ass, but think about it. For a human being to kill a Hutt with her bare hands, that's unbelievable. Anybody who would be able to pull that off would be remembered for it. That would be legend. So, all right, I'm not going to say anything more about this other than this. There was no need to change or think that this needed to be changed. This was one of Leia's heroic moment of her being captured, her being enslaved as a dancer and stuff, and to at his whim, I guess you could say, and to her finding the strength to get herself out of the situation, rescuing herself in a sense. All still dressed up in that outfit. And when you look at Star Wars, there's a lot of species and a lot of attire that is revealing to a female species or a female's body. You have the Twi'leks who dress very promiscuous, I guess you could say, or with less, or even if they have their full body covered, it is still accentuates the body. You have the Zeltrons as well. You have other species. You have Ahsoka species, the Togrutas that dress less, but they're more primitive. So all of a sudden, this is something that was wrong with Leia. Okay, let's move on. Let me see what you guys are saying before I move on. I spent a long time on that one. The slave outfit was standard uniform for Jabba's dancers. You see another chick wearing one in episode 1, correct? Dude, what was one of the most empowering moments in Leia Solo's life? She defeated one of the most powerful gangsters in the whole galaxy. Give me a break, right? And a lot of women embrace that. Renamed Hutt Slayer Lady Vader, bitch. Yeah, that's Lady Vader, the name that the Nogri gave her, and rightfully so. Lady Vader. Lady Vader. Let's all take a trip to Zeltros. I knew that would garner a response from you. And let's see here. All right, let's get back to this because let's see how much we can zip through this. Clone Wars brought Darth Maul back. Now, this is something that a lot of us did not agree with George Lucas. Yes, he approved of Darth Maul coming back. And I think this is one of his worst decisions ever, besides hiring Dave Filoni. But that's another conversation in itself. So the Phantom Menace's worst mistake. Well, that's not... Phantom Menace's worst mistake was not Darth Maul coming back. It was the Clone Wars. Even George Lucas knew he made a mistake killing Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. No, he didn't know that him bringing back Maul was not him admitting that he was wrong killing him. Because then if he thinks it's wrong that he killed Maul, then he's then also thinking that, Kenobi's arc was wrong too. The Sith Lord had one of the most imposing and impressive designs in the franchise history, and figured prominently in marketing for the prequels. In the end, though, he had only a handful of scenes and a little dialogue before he was cut down by a Jedi Padawan. It was such a waste, and Lucas swiftly realized he made a misstep. He even considered having Maul return as General Grievous in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Look that up. I have the Star Wars archive, so I will look that up as well. First, fast forward to the Clone Wars, and Lucas dropped a bombshell on the creative team he'd assembled by revealing he wanted to resurrect Darth Maul. This was eventually accomplished through a combination of cybernetic technology and Night Sister magic, and it didn't take long for Maul to become the Clone Wars most a third party during the Clone Wars. Maul battled both the Jedi and the Sith, adding a wonderful degree of complexity and nuance to the story. So what do you guys think? I have always thought this was the worst decision ever because it also dampened out Kenobi's storyline on how he became Anakin's master, or his to train Anakin, how he became a knight, and later on how he became a master. This was Maul's death was Obi-Wan's story, and it was the catalyst to his story. Being what do you guys have to say about this? So you think that this was a mistake, like that Maul's death was a mistake and it needed to be corrected? I don't. And I think a lot of fans agree that this was one of George Lucas's worst mistakes ever. This wasn't something that needed to be corrected in the long run, because Maul's death was a catalyst to Obi-Wan becoming Anakin's master and becoming a Jedi Knight. He finished his trials, basically. A serial show of the Clone Wars was a great idea. Too bad it unfolded to insult the EU. It more than it's insulted the EU, it insulted the movies. Yes, he was meant to die for the story. He was meant to be quiet and mysterious, menacing, the Phantom Menace, Phantom Menace. Let's see here. And number 3, Clone became heroes again thanks to the Clone Wars chip retcon. A narrative stroke of genius. So what do you guys think about this? This is another bad mistake, and I would like to say this was not George's decision, and I stand firmly on that. There's this article that I pulled up about a few years, maybe about 4 years ago or whatever, and someone asked George in an interview what he thought about the chip, and he's like, there's no chip. And I need to find that article. Ever since then, I didn't save it. I wish I remember. I remember what the site looks like. I just can't remember who the interviewers were. But I got to find that. And I haven't given up. I just haven't been able to sit down and really fully give myself time to locate it. But basically, Lucas denied the chip. And but yeah, but there was never a chip in the Attack of the Clones, and he is right. The chip is a retcon. Many people say that it was always intended that the chip was mentioned in Attack of the Clones, and it was never mentioned in Attack of the Clone. Those damn chips, such bullshit. I agree. Let's see here. Chips were worst idea ever, correct. And looking at the history of the development of the season the chip came out was during a time frame when the buyout happened, and all production of that season was halted. So it wasn't done yet and completed until after the buyout happened and they resumed the Clone Wars. And with that, when you look at the concept art and all of that, it wasn't even called a chip. It was basically a tumor. So because of that article I found of George Lucas, and I have to find it again. I need to find it. I am like in dire needs to find it because I want to do a video about it. I think that later on, as they were finishing with the development of the story, because scripts change. Scripts can change no matter if it's a live production or animated production. Scripts can change up into the time before the show airs, right? We know that things change last minute. And I think that's what happened. I think that's exactly what happened, but it was a tumor. It was a tumor. All right, let's go ahead and read some more. The clone debuted in episode 2, and the movie wasn't exactly subtle about setting them up as pro stormtroopers. Yeah, they were just built for a certain type of mission, and that's it. Nobody was particularly surprised when clones turned on the Jedi in Revenge of the Sith, executing Order 66 at Palpatine's command. The problem for Lucas, though, was that he wanted the clones to be more sympathetic, especially when he began working with the Clone Wars animated show. Well, the history of the clones, if you look into Karen Travis's work and the development behind all of that, and within this era, this time frame, this timeline, clones were made to fully not think for themselves, in a sense, I guess you could say, and accept orders without fault. But depending on the ranking of the clone, now I'm talking about Arcs and Knolls, they had more freedom because they were less altered. And when you read Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader, you still had some clones, and no, they didn't have chips, still taking the order as directed, or questioning the order and warning the Jedi, if we see you again, we must follow through. So I don't know where, and this happened organically without having a chip. So I don't know where he's getting that George wanted to use a chip so that they could be more sympathetic. We already seen that without a chip, but we also know that the clones who disobeyed at one point were executed, or they were never caught and basically end up killing the Jedi if they return back into their sights again, back in. So it's kind of funny that he doesn't refer back to the EU for this. And this is not, and he's thinking that the clones not having a chip was what was wrong in the historical timeline of Star Wars. No, it wasn't. It worked perfectly well. I just pointed out some information regarding that. Lucasfilm settled on an incredibly smart fix. This is not a fucking smart fix. With the TV show revealing the clones had been implanted with an inhibitor chip that were activated when Palpatine uttered those fatal words. Okay, so not every clone received the message from Palpatine. We seen in Revenge of the Sith that he was talking directly to the commanders, the commanding clone officers. And then they were then commanding their troops. See where this made it worse? It was fine until this, because this contradicts the movie. As soon as the Sith Lord spoke, they were effectively be reduced to slaves, and they gunned down the Jedi. Again, he did not speak to all the clones. So I don't know, Bacon. You are just being so disingenuous here. I'm pretty sure you typed this and you knew exactly that this was wrong. If you didn't, then what the fuck? You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Their lack of free will meant Order 66 was a tragedy for the clones as well as the Jedi. Their lack of free will without the chip made it even more greater of a tragedy for them and the Jedi. There was no need for the chip because we already knew that their free will being altered, genetically altered, as explained in Attack of the Clones, already made everything as tragic when this order was called. There was nothing to fix here, nothing whatsoever. All right. And so you'll see they call it a retcon. And it says, and he thinks that this improves Revenge of the Sith's darkest scene. No, he just shared it contradicts it because the Sith Lord did not speak to all the clones. And we see that within the movie. He's being willfully ignorant about this. Didn't even work consistently. Sometimes turns you into a psychopath. Sometimes you act normal. Sometimes you act like a cold-blooded machine. Let me see. I never thought about that. First time I've ever hated bacon. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Boba Fett wins. Good soldiers follow orders. Exactly. And there's always going to be there's always going to be that outlier, right? But there was no need for a chip because nothing was wrong with how the clones were created in the beginning. All right, let's go to number 2. Ahmad Best got the return he deserved. Kelleran Best is brilliant. Okay, so first of all, without even reading this to you guys, it was the character that a lot of fans did not like. It wasn't the actor. So how is this him getting a return he deserved? He also played another character in the PT as well, and people didn't have a problem with him during that time. So think about that. It was Jar Jar that wasn't liked. It was Ahmad Best was not the target. It was mainly, if at all, Jar Jar Binks. And he played another character within the PT, which fans never had a problem with him doing. So it wasn't about Ahmad Best as a person being hated. It was Jar Jar. So let's go on with this. Jar Jar Binks became one of the most controversial characters in Star Wars prequel trilogy. Although his reputation has improved in recent years, that said, he deserved mention on this list for the far more disturbing reason, a fan reaction. Voice actor Ahmad Best came close to taking his own life after the backlash. And may I remind you, Mr. Bacon, this attempted suicide was confirmed by Ahmad Best to be because of media, the harassment by the media. First, fast forward, The Mandalorian season 3, though, and Best got his chance to return in spectacular form. He played Jedi Master Kelleran Beg in a fantastic flashback sequence, one that revealed his new character was the one who had rescued Grogu. Should have left that little bastard to die, but Best had previously played the role in a likely non-canon YouTube game series, but now Kelleran was officially part of the blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I had to think about it. I've been in Star Wars world for such a long time, and my story is such a roller coaster ride of emotions. So coming back to Star Wars wasn't an easy decision for me. It wasn't something I could have immediately said yes to. I did have a to marinate over it for a bit. Thankfully, the fans reacted to Best's return was an absolute delight to see. Again, it wasn't about the actor, it was about the character Jar Jar. He was celebrated by the fandom, welcomed and treated with honor. He has always been welcomed. They just didn't like his character, the character he played. And he had admitted before that he could not separate himself from the character, which as a person who is a performer, you need to learn how to separate yourself from the character, because then you start touching, you start disconnecting from reality. You lose touch with reality. It was just what he deserved after his awful treatment in the 2000s. It can only be hoped that Kelleran will return. Best has already even gotten to voice Jar Jar again in Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. So let's see what you guys have to say with this. I think Jar Jar is the best and most accurate depiction of a senator we've had on screen. Kind of sums up 99% of the clowns in the Senate in and out of the universe. Okay. Good point. Nobody had a problem with Ahmad Best or Jake Lloyd. The media just trying to cover for the media's BS. Correct. He had grown from kids during the OT to adults by the time PM came out. The Phantom Menace came out, so he wanted more adult Star Wars, not kid stuff. That's all it was. Master and Mod Binks. Let's see here. Yeah, the kids love Jar Jar. Let's see. Nobody had a problem. Yeah, correct. All right. So let's move on this one here. Get to number 1 of this. Okay. Tusken stereotypes. And this is where you're going to hear me go off on this bullshit right here, you guys. Tusken stereotypes have been fixed thanks to the book of Boba Fett, a welcome change in storytelling. Let's close the controversy and see with Ahmad, they're talking about an actor. It has nothing to do with Star Wars. So that has nothing to do with a correction towards Star Wars lore. So that number 2 was a bullshitted one. This number 1 is also, all of this is bullshit, but let's get into this because first of all, you guys, Tusken Raiders, they were meant to be seen the way George and his company created them. Their culture is brutal. And even when you get into Asherad Het, their story, and what was the female Tusken's name again in Kenobi? Crap, what was her name? Anyways, even when you get storylines from those sources and we get a glimpse into the Tusken culture during those times, it still reveals how brutal they are. It's not a correction so that we can see them more humanely or relate to them. tribally, it's for us to understand why they are such a culture, why they are so brutal to those that are not of their species. It makes us understand them for the way they are, not the way that we think they should be understood like. So let me see what you guys are saying already. Yeah, Ayark. Thank you so much. Plug Eye Ayark. Tuscans are bad guys. This nice Tuscan bullshit was just ridiculous. I agree. And yes, Ayark. Plug Eye Ayark. Thank you guys. I was like, I could not come up with a name with the life of me right now. And I usually talk about her a lot. We're sending him out the airlock. There we go. Yes, let's send this bacon character out the airlock. That Tuscan shit shake my head. I agree. Republic already made that in 98, 99. This is a basic job. Let's see here. Brutal cultures are a real thing. Every culture has brutality in its history too. Yeah. And I'm not saying that like humans and certain races and humans are all peaceful, loving type cultures, but there are inhumane things. But there are cultures that are very inhumane in a sense that to us that don't live in that culture, that seems inhumane. But to them, that's just a way of living. And you can even go with the Mongoloids a long time ago, within the human history. I want a BLT now. That sounds good. BLTs with avocado, that is my comfort food. That is my love right there. Like if you want to get on my good side, make me a BLT with some avocado. Right on, babe. Yep. I need a BLT to redeem the bacon now. Everybody's like, BLTs? Yum, BLTs? Yeah, BLT is my comfort food. And if I don't have tomatoes and I don't have avocados, but I think I'm going to go to the store and grab some and make me some. Let's close this controversy. It's never been a controversy whatsoever. So when you guys seen the Tuscans in the OT, did you feel it as a controversial thing for how they were portrayed, shown to you? Was it a controversy? Or were you like, oh shit, these guys are awful, Luke better get out there, he's gonna get killed? How was it a controversy? And then when we seen them in the PT, we got further glimpse into why they are so menacing and why they are feared on Tatooine. But again, was it a controversy? It was tragic what happened with Anakin's mom, but it wasn't a controversy. It was also tragic or sad that the measures Anakin took on revenge to kill them, but it wasn't a controversy. That was just the first glimpse of him going dark. It wasn't a controversy for them to die. They basically chose that for themselves by angering someone that was higher, more, I wouldn't say godlike, but to them godlike, because we learned that after that happened, they seen Anakin as a god. That was revealed in the Tatooine Ghost. And then we heard a little bit about it from Ayark and how the Tuscans weakened after that time, after their slaughter. That slaughter wasn't controversy either. It wasn't. It was more or less understood. More or less understood. Anakin is a bigot by the shill media standards, yes, because he killed a tribe. They were just trying to exist. They were misunderstood. The humans were colonizing and taking their land away, and I must, relate to them as a Native American. Fuck that bullshit. This is Star Wars. This is something different. This is something significantly different, because then if that's the case, then every single planet should feel like humans are the colonizers, because humans basically were the settlers of the galaxy there. Every planet that they live on, they came and settled on or lived, coexisted with the species that are native to that planet. So you should have seen all the people saying the Tuscans represent natives and OG's anger. It was next level, made Vader angrier look like a joke. It was. It was. I was like, what the hell? I've since then calmed down, but I'm still like, I'm still feeling it. I'm still feeling it. All right, let's get into this. All right. Where did I leave off? I'll just start from the beginning again. Let's close with a controversy that runs all the way back to A New Hope. Again, I just talked about that. It's not a controversy. No one fucking seen it as a controversy for how the Tuscans were acting during the time when Obi-Wan rescued Luke. A result of Lucas drawing inspiration from popular cultures at the time. Fantasy readers will be familiar with the trope of standard fantasy races, the idea that every member of a race is exactly the same. All elves are noble warriors, all dwarfs are gruff and all battle axes, and all use battle axes, and so on. Lucas imported the idea into Star Wars, and the problem is most notable with the Tuscans. All right, let's see what they have to say. Tuscans draw on American Western mythology, and they play all the classic, now recognized as racist. Fuck this shit. Oh my God. Tropes about indigenous people. Oh my God. All right, so all of the material that I've researched so far, and someone can point me if I'm wrong or need further information, and you have it, point me to the right direction. But nowhere have I found out that the Tuscan trope was about indigenous people, like my people, and colonization and stuff like that. But again, those listening now and those catching the replay, if you can point me to sources where George harkens them to indigenous people, and I have the archives here, and so far I have not found it, doesn't mean that it's not there. You know, there's always a chance I could be wrong, and I admit that I'm wrong. That's the uniqueness about me. I'm not like some Star Wars channels that think that they're right all the damn time, and that what they do and say is the thing and everybody should follow because of the subscriber count of their channel. That's bullshit. So the Star Wars EU fleshed them out a little more. John Jackson Miller cannot be particularly noteworthy, but the movies continue to fail the Tuscans. No, they don't. They're supposed to be perceived as they are for a reason. The movies don't fail them, and in fact, Kenobi is in sync with how the movies were sharing their culture, and also solidified why they are the way they are. Hell, they're even that way towards other species of their planet. And they have this the superiority over everything else. But the movies continue to fail the Tuscans, drawing on those tropes in Attack of the Clones. Padme Amidala barely blinks when Anakin tells her he slaughtered the Tuscan men, women, and children. She was stunned. If you watched it, Mr. Bacon, she was stunned, but then she was also listening with compassion on his story, what had happened, and his anger and his grief about his mom's death by them. So this guy, Bacon, thinks that Padme should have chastised him because they murdered his mom. And in fact, she's never been to Tatooine Her first time to Tatooine, let me take that back. Her first time to Tatooine was in the Phantom Menace. And that's why she demanded to go down into Mos Eisley with them, because she was curious about the planet. Her second visit, of course, was Attack of the Clone. And so she really doesn't have any perception about the Tuskens. And so she's just sitting there being compassionate and letting Anakin talk in his grief, his anger, his fear to her about the situation. That's how I perceive, that's how I seen that. It wasn't a controversy. It wasn't against the Tuskens. It was just about the moment and letting Anakin express himself, his wrong, his action, his fear, his grief. That's what that was about. So the Mandalorians leans heavily into American Western mythology and has returned to Tatooine several times, but there were hints of a shift when Din Djarin speaks to Tuskens rather fighting them. He speaks to them. That was so stupid. I swear to God, I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, yes, I am going to get to it. There should be no reason that he knows their language to speak to them. I think that was a huge failty, because there's no reason at all to even think that he has experience with the Tuskens to know their language. All right. Tuskens, and then so rather than fighting them and visibly unimpressed by the constant conflict between the Tuskens and the Tatooine settlers, then came the reason why the Tuskens had problems with the settlers is because they were mining the water. They were going against their beliefs with that. And they see themselves more superior to the humans. And yes, the humans and them were fighting. More or less, they would leave them alone, what have you. So there's this whole complexity of this, but these Tuskens weren't, what do you say? They weren't the victims. They aren't victims of this. They aren't. Then came the Book of Boba Fett, which saw Boba inducted into the Tuskens. Oh my God. And that they tried to recreate the Tusken history of adoptees and how they did adopt them. And they did it in such an awful way. When we seen Anakin's mom in the Tusken hut, on the scaffold there, or on the tripod there, or tied up, you could tell she was beaten. You could tell that they tortured her. Majority of the time, how they initiated humans or any other species in to their tribes as part of what they call Tuskens, as part of them, is how tough they are if they could survive the tortures and succumb to finally becoming a Tusken. The Book of Boba Fett played that so effing bad. It's laughable, but all of it's laughable. And that goes to show how brutal the Tuskens are. There are some people that did just naturally just adopted the Tuskens, and that would be Sharad Het or Asharad. Well, anyways, the father. I always get them too confused. And I think Tahiri Vela was another one that really didn't get tortured in a sense. So she's another one. But their history is that they will torture you to push you over the edge and succumb to becoming a Tusken or die. That's their culture. It's brutal. The story isn't perfect. Some have critiqued it for having an element of the old white savior trope, but it's a massive step forward for the Star Wars, for Disney Star Wars. It's a massive step forward for Disney Star Wars because this did not need to be corrected in whatsoever on how people perceived or seen the Tusken Raiders. In that, in turn, and it turns an established trope on its head. For the first time, viewers were expected to empathize with the Tuskens. No, I don't want to empathize with them. There's no need to empathize with them because that's not what they were supposed to be. They're supposed to be feared. They're supposed to be one of these extreme cultures that maybe even human species didn't fully understand, and that the Tuskens seen themselves as superiors to humans and other races. And they have their mythologies of like the twin suns, and all of this harkens back to when the Rakata bombarded their planet. And, you know, the Tuskens survived that. And before the bombardment, I believe like the Tuskens and the Tuskens species was slightly different than what we see them now. So this is a result of what happened with the Rakata and stuff like that. If you want to go into the historical events of the Tuskens and of the natives on Tatooine, the Tuskens are in result. Even to celebrate their attack on a train, or empathize with the Tuskens, even to celebrate their attack on a train, Anakin's attack on the Clone Wars atrocity retroactively looks even worse. And that's what they want to do. They want to make him look worse for what he did, I guess. I don't know. This is supposed to be the moment of his turn and all this, but also get a glimpse into how bad and brutal the Tuskens are. Doesn't mean that they deserve this, but that's just who they are. And doesn't make what Anakin did be less meaningful on his turn either. Let's see here. I never thought it was a controversy. They're a tribe of nomads that do what they must to survive. Yeah, and they're very harsh, and that's their culture. All right. So that's the end of this. What do you think? Do you think all of these here, one, that this right here should have been changed, that it's changed by Disney, number one, that this was something that needed to be corrected? So did this need to be corrected, number one? And the people to correct this, who thought this needed to be corrected, was Disney. I'm pointing that out. Number two, this has nothing to do with Star Wars lore. They just gave him another role. So this was nothing that needed to be corrected, and again, by Disney. This number three was something that never needed to be corrected. It was never a controversy. It was never a continuity error. And this was done during the buyout of the Clone Wars. So it could still be Lucasfilm pre-Disney, or it can be blamed on Lucasfilm under Disney. Number four, Clone Wars brought Darth Maul back. Now, this is something that never needed to be changed or retcon or anything, and this was George Lucas here. And I've said this in the past, and I say it now, I don't agree, and this is something that never needed to be corrected. And number five, where the hell is it? This is a long one. There we go. Slave Leia costume. This never needed to be corrected. Like the name of it never needed to be corrected. This is all about, the word slave is such a triggering word. That falls behind that, under that as well, which I forgot to mention. During that time, Like this is the time when also Slave 1 was being changed as well. So this right here was never a controversy. It was also well embraced by a lot of female fans. And this was never something never needed to be corrected. And the correction was quote unquote made by Disney. The majority here was made by Disney and not within the 48 years. Like this is nothing that needed to be corrected and was never corrected in the past. It was corrected in the future. So the title is misleading as well. So this is recent, not within. Like you could say within, but no, this is recent and stuff like that. So this right here is misleading as well. So I think Maul was kind of wasted, the Phantom Menace, but I didn't like how they did it. What? You didn't like how they killed Maul? You think that he was wasted? It was an epic story for Obi-Wan. That was not a waste whatsoever. I've seen so many Slave Leia outfits at cons, lots of ladies wear, and even today, even Sex Plane wears it. Hey, if Slave Leia was so hated, I guess they got to stop selling that costume because I see how tons of women wearing it for Halloween every year. Correct. Oh wait, they won't do it because plenty of women love it and like to give them money for it. Correct. Let's see here. Yeah, so this was a bullshit article. None of these whatsoever needed to be changed. It wasn't a continuity error. Nothing. It wasn't mistakes that needed to be fixed at all. None of them. None of them whatsoever needed to be fixed here. All right. Let's see here. I don't need that picture of the dude in the Slave Alpha OG. No, thank you. All right, so let me see. Let me take this off here, off the screen. Stop screen. Rehash here. Let me go ahead and pull these up. We have George Lucas Fact talking about his experience in film school. Book of the Week, Star Wars, The Power of Myth. And let me see here. Since we're talking about Tuskens, let me see what it says about the Tuskens in here. Because there has to be something about them in here. If that's the case. Because if they're going into Western mythos, then this would be something that would be mentioned here for the Tuskens. All right. Okay, I don't see nothing yet. All right, let me go back to the PT era. Because that should have something there with the Tuskens, and it doesn't. So far, there is nothing with George Lucas on creating the Tuskens as Native Americans. So far. Doesn't mean it's not out there. I'm just saying so far. So, because if that's the case, then we would have it in this, the Power of Myth, breaking it down. So there we go, because Tuskens do occur in both OT and PT as a threat in some way, shape, or form. All right, so there you have it, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to CAF Chat. Thank you guys on X for watching on that end. Yes, tonight, Raging Rhino, Casual Rage will be on. I think it's about, could be wrong, about 7:30 Pacific time, my time. So I might not make it in, or I'll be listening to it on my drive home. I'm going up to a city just north of me, which is a 35-minute drive for a yoga class. So so the drive, it's at 6. So on the way home, I'll probably end up listening to it if it's around that time during my drive. And let's see here. So go ahead and check that out. I don't see what the subject is, but it's always a great time over there. And the CAF Chat Book of the Week and Lucas Facts will be posted on Twitter. They should be done that already. I will try to remember to post it here on the community page and YouTube. So you can go ahead and check it out there as well. Sorry, I didn't know that they brought Maul back. Oh, I mean, wasted so far as a great villain who shouldn't have died in his first fight. He was meant to die for his first fight. That was the whole purpose of Obi-Wan's arc. And he's still supposed to be seen as menacing as well. So, but he does have great story pre-episode 1. So check it out. So chat, who's going to get BLT now? Blame OG. Yes, BLT. Totally BLT. BLT, you guys, I'm going to go to the store and go get my lettuce and tomato. Oh, actually, I don't need lettuce. Tomato and avocado. I have my bread. Yum. I could cook up my bacon because I have bacon in the refrigerator ready to be cooked up. BLT time. Let's do it, you guys. All because of me. BLT. That's my favorite comfort food. I agree, OG Stars. I just, when we could have had him long. Yeah, we could have, but we do have him longer because the story is, there is the PT, or episode 1, he has the story there. And thank you so much. Yes, I enjoyed my time with you guys as well. This is what it's about. I appreciate you all. And again, if you guys haven't had a chance to, I'm a part of the Gatekeepers Alliance. So please go over there and sub to the channel there. We had our first live for the channel. It should be up now. So go check that out. It was quite fun. And yeah, so go ahead and check that out. So we're going to close here. So thank you guys for watching. If you're watching and catching the replay, thank you for hanging out with us this long. And as always, replay watchers, yeah, sounds funny. Let me know you've been here. Leave comments below in the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. And to the residential shills, thank you for coming in and still supporting my channel, even though you're here to only shill for Disney Star Wars. Thank you again. I always appreciate all supporters. So kind of defeats your purpose for defending Disney and stuff by coming in here and supporting this channel. But hey, that's why you're called the Residential Shield. So thank you so much. And again, everybody, channel members, channel subscribers, everybody, thank you so much. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you. Where's the clip now?
Another happy landing.